The Free Agents podcast contains mature themes and adult language. Any discussion of gambling is for entertainment purposes only. Please abide by all laws in your location regarding gambling.
This should be our intro. Can we start?
This week on The Free Agents.
Can't stand USC quarterbacks, I'm sorry. Carson Palmer was good, and then he throws 3 interceptions. One of them was so lousy. And you know he's just trying to force the ball in the situation.
Literally a hazmat team, guys in Kevlar suits and respirators, came into the visiting locker room in Atlanta after Tampa Bay left because they were so concerned with Tampa Bay and their players getting that infection transmitting from them and starting living in the visiting locker room.
And no one has seen Waka pitch. No one has seen Kelly pitch. They've barely seen Wainwright pitch. And that's a huge advantage. And not to say the same thing about the batters. For St. Louis, they also haven't seen Lester and Buchholz as much. But when you have these young guys, at least there's some film on Lester and Buchholz.
Yeah. How you doing today, French?
Good.
Good?
Still
waking up a little bit? It's kind of a
it was a long
slow
night.
day. Yeah.
Long night in Boston.
Yeah, it was a long night for everybody, all football fans. There was a lot of blood and guts and nasty injuries in this week of NFL action. So
you're right. I didn't realize it until you really mentioned anything until I got here today. And we're recording this in early afternoon, and when you sleep for most of the day and see live music the night before, I wasn't aware of all these injuries till this morning. But my God. People are just getting massacred out there.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. We'll go through some of them. Apparently, I think most of the Bears team, most of their team is injured for at least 4 to 6 weeks. Most notably, Jay Cutler will be out. Lance Brigg is also included in that sort of 4 to 6 week time range. So they're in a tough spot. It looks like Jay Cutler had a muscle tear in his groin. So
that's not a good injury.
Yeah, that's a tough one. And even once he's back on the field, he may not be 100%. I mean, the groin is always a nagging thing. You can ask Danny Amendola about that.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say. I mean, just they cleared him to play one game, and on the very first series, he re-aggravates his injury. And I think that was week 2.
Yeah.
Week 3 with Amendola. I've pulled a groin muscle before, and it was terrible. It was definitely not a good thing.
No, I would not
but
wish
a tear,
that on. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're an athlete, there's nothing you can do. I mean, you're gonna feel it. I mean, until the season's over. So it's gonna be interesting to see, how the Bears fare.
Yeah, they're gonna be, they're in a tough spot, and it's certainly, it's good news for, helps Detroit out, I think, a lot in this situation. That may allow them to make a bit of a comeback here in that division. So we'll wait and see what happens this week with them. Sam Bradford is done. Certainly not a top fantasy quarterback, but a fan, still a commonly owned fantasy quarterback here out. He tore ACL in his left knee, and he will be done for the season. So if you haven't started looking for a replacement or you don't have a backup,
he was my backup.
Well, then you're okay. That's good.
Terrell
Pryor. Want to find another, yeah.
Terrell Pryor, here we go.
I have Ryan Tannehill. If you want to, maybe we could trade, French.
Sure. Yeah. Whatever. Red Rifle had another good game for me yesterday. Andy Dalton. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But it's interesting in St. Louis because Kellen Clemens is the only backup there. And I guess I was reading something that they're working out quarterbacks this week. So God only knows who will come in there. Maybe Jamarcus Russell will get another shot.
Oh man, Jamarcus Russell. I don't know about Jamarcus Russell, but
well, I think in the light of all this, he must be a little excited, like, hey, maybe.
Yeah, well, he was talking about trying to get back to playing for him again. So we'll see. It may end up being Jamarcus Russell. Who knows? With the Rams there, but
it's a tough situation because they were trying to figure out if Bradford was going to be their long-term guy this year, and they've said they were committed to it, and they said they would give him an extension, But then this happens.
Yeah, well now he's done for this. That sets him back. So.
And it completely sets him back, because then the first game of the 2014 season, it's going to be like, all right, well, let's see what you got, again, and that'll be his 5th year at that point.
So they may end up cutting ties with him in the off season or something. Who knows?
I think it depends what they want to do with this contract. Really.
Yeah,
but
the timing of it kind of stinks, because until a few weeks ago, you had, Josh Freeman was out there. He's a guy that everyone said, and this is why that all came about, was that, people threw out there, well, why wouldn't, maybe the Rams are getting, maybe they want to move on from Sam Bradford. Maybe he's not the guy in St. Louis. And and there's a lot of discussion around that, and that's where all that came from. So he got taken up. They couldn't possibly know that Sam Bradford's going to have this injury in a few weeks, looking into the future. Mm-hmm. And so now they're really stuck, because I don't think there are many options out there beyond just true, backups that might be out there. There's no guy out there who might be the future of your team, that you're going to take a flyer on. So that's tough. And certainly it's tough for us fantasy owners. We had another big injury is, Reggie Wayne will be out for the season, also with a torn ACL. He got messed up on the field there. His knee got blown up. And speaking of getting blown up, Jermichael Finley is still, as far as I know, in ICU after just a really intense helmet-to-helmet hit with the Brown safety there. So he's in Jermichael Finley, and another widely owned tight end in fantasy. Is just he's going to be quite at best. At least I gotta say, at least a few weeks if he even comes back. Who knows how bad this is? He's in the ICU, so it's pretty serious. That's pretty bad. It's
going to be interesting to see with both these teams. Reggie Wayne gone. That's the veteran presence that's gone. They have this young T.Y. Hilton who's shown flashes, but he's still a little bit raw. And they have Darius Hayward-Bay, who no one's really sure if he can be the guy they need them to be right now. So there are going to be questions there. Colby Fleener's role is going to have to step up here too. And I think Luck is good enough to get through this. And obviously, you guys watched the game last night. I didn't get to see the game, unfortunately. I was at a concert. I had to do it. It was a tough choice. But even though that was one of the best games of the year, they still got through that. And Luck's going to be what carries this team. Obviously he has been. Reggie Wayne isn't a terrible injury. They can get through it, but I think it's going to hurt him more than most people would think.
Well, yeah, Reggie Wayne may be able to get back and play, but certainly he's done it's not like he's just going to miraculously be back in week 12 or something. He's going to be out for the rest of the season. I think that's pretty certain. So. And
next year he would be coming back as a 35-year-old after coming off the ACL surgery. So there'll be questions there too. That's a long time away, but.
Yeah. So that's going to be really an interesting question mark for the Colts going down the road. Eagles have question marks as well. We have, Nick Foles is out. Did I get that right?
Yeah. Yes.
So Nick Foles is out, and,
they need to get Vic back in there.
So they need Michael Vick back. But it's a problem because that's a team that needs to have a solid backup, I think, more than maybe other teams with more traditional pocket style passing. Michael Vick does get banged up out there. He's gotten better. His decision making is a lot better than it used to be.
Yeah.
And he doesn't just go rolling out left and right, without any protection, but still, we've seen every year he gets beat up pretty hard and he splits hard, and he's a guy that as a man, as a GM of the Eagles, you really do have to have a legitimate handcuff for him. Not just some guy who, we can put him in if something really bad happens. But what are the chances? We're not going to worry about it. It's not like when you have Tom Brady where your backup is solely there. You don't really ever expect to use him in a season unless something really goes wrong, like Brady gets hurt, seriously hurt.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't happen. But with guys like Mike Vick, that's how your team is built, so you have to have some pieces, have to have a handcuff there. And if you draft him in fantasy sports, it's the same thing. If you take Mike Vick and you didn't take any kind of legitimate backup quarterback, you may be in some real trouble.
And it was a big letdown game for Foles. I feel bad for him. I feel bad. I was recommending that play. I really liked that play. I think I was on the right track, but obviously that game didn't turn out to what anyone thought it would be, which was a shootout.
Yeah.
Which didn't happen. McCoy didn't do much of anything. Romo ended up with, a good game as usual. He throws it a lot. But I mean, it was just a bad game for Nick Foles, and he was coming off of a pretty good game, and he played about 7 quarters or so. He started the last full game. He threw 5 touchdowns, didn't throw an interception. I wrote all this in the blog.
Yeah.
And he threw for almost 500 yards, and he threw for almost 75%, and then he just comes out and goes 11 for 29 with a concussion. And it's just not,
yeah.
I just hate to joke around like
it's not like he went out and tried to concuss himself, but like
people expected him to do a lot better. A guy in my fantasy league picked him up to start over RG3 this week. And how bad does that guy feel?
That's awful.
Like, I'm going to pick up Foles because I have no more faith in RG3.
That's not the league
that's the kind of,
right? That's a different
No, that was a different one. This was, but that just goes to show, like, the level of respect that Foles was beginning to gain, because he looked like an okay pocket passer, and that was a huge game for him. If he had done well in that situation, the Eagles are going to have a serious question coming up on who to start between Vic and him. But obviously there is no clear question, or there's no question there. It's just going to be Vic. Now, they brought Barkley in, and you talk about your handcuff, and now the other handcuff, Matt Barkley, and I just can't stand USC quarterbacks. I'm sorry. I mean, Carson Palmer was good, and then he throws 3 interceptions. One of them was so lousy. And he's just trying to force the balls in the situations. That's what they gave to him. He had to do it. He had to throw it. But it was not pretty. It was not pretty.
He's not the man, This is not the case of Tom Brady, taking over for Drew Bledsoe. And it seems like this happens. Why is this always happening with the Eagles more than a lot of teams in the NFL, where like every year they're going 3 deep into their quarterbacks? Like, that's what I don't get. They haven't figured this out. Like, are they not? I mean, are they not protecting guys? I don't understand. I can't figure out. I wish we had LJ here this week, because he might have some good insight into why the Eagles just can't seem to keep their starting quarterback in every game this year. I don't get it.
The protection's not terrible. They've given up 19 sacks. There's definitely teams that have done worse.
Oh yeah. That's why it's so baffling. I can't find any like numbers based reason for it. It's just, it must be the scheme and like the way the playbook is set up. I don't know. Let's see. I think there was one other injury.
Doug Martin.
Oh yeah. Doug Martin is another big one. And really all of Tampa Bay is just, a plague. And we'll get to that. But yeah, the Bucs believe, I don't know if they've confirmed it quite yet. There's not been an MRI from what I'm reading. MRI will be sometime later today, so we'll probably know by the time we're done recording the show. But most likely, they believe Doug Martin has a torn labrum, and that'll be the end of his season for this year. So
tough loss for Tampa.
That's really tough for Tampa, but I don't really have a lot of sympathy for them. I feel bad for the players there, because they're sick and they're injured and they're infected, and the ownership and management at Tampa Bay is just not. I don't know. They're just not dealing with it, or it doesn't seem like they're getting this taken care of. I mean, this is so bad. Now, we didn't talk about it, but 2 weeks ago when Philly was playing, there were questions about. We did mention it last week that Philly and there was a players' union grievance. They insisted that the locker rooms be tested before Philly went into Tampa Bay to play there, because they were so afraid of their guys getting infected. And this is not just Philly. Other teams around the league have this, feel this way as well this week. And there were pictures circulated. I saw in a Bleacher Report article on BleacherReport.com that literally a hazmat team, guys in Kevlar suits and respirators, came into the visiting locker room in Atlanta after Tampa Bay left, because they were so concerned with Tampa Bay and their players and getting that that infection transmitting from them and starting living in the visiting locker room and just taking over the facilities in the same way it seems it has in Tampa Bay. So this is it's grimy. I mean, it's literally good. Grimy. I mean, it's not even figuratively.
When other teams are worried about it in their facility, It can't be good. It doesn't sound good. They don't know much about what a staph infection is.
No, they're not all medical experts and scientific experts. I mean, obviously they have their doctors and stuff, and and they have the public health officials and people to give them guidance on how to deal with these things. But it's just bad. I don't know. Do they need to firebomb the Tampa Bay?
Yes.
Just like outbreak style?
Yeah.
Just drop the giant,
Yes.
that might work, yeah.
We're all zombie orientated,
Yeah.
We're a zombie orientated culture now with The Walking Dead season. I think we should just firebomb.
Yeah, we'll just play on the safe side and just get a new stadium for them. I don't know what to do. It's really bad. And, I don't know if they're ever going to fix it.
I was reading very quickly before we just started about the staph infection, and it says it's not this particular one. It's antibiotics don't work against it like a normal infection.
Yeah, this is what they call MRSA. It's resistant to a lot of the common antibiotics they use to treat these sorts of infections.
Is it resistant to the firebomb?
Oh no, fire kills everything.
Okay, great.
That's a universal truth in the universe, dude.
Problem solved.
If you can blow it up or you can burn it, it's gone.
Great. Problem solved.
So yeah, we just burn it down. And
should we call up Tampa head office?
Yeah, we should probably call them and let them know. But I mean, in all seriousness, do you want your team? I mean, if I'm the owner of another team, do I want my team, my roster of players whom I'm paying these millions of dollars to go down there and play against Tampa Bay and risk getting an infection from their facilities? Do I really want that? I'm surprised
scary.
there hasn't been more talk about this. It's like this hasn't been a bigger issue. It's definitely been an underreported story, I think, this year.
Well, they're probably trying not to make a big deal about it.
Well, speaking of making a big deal about things, and this is a much bigger deal, like you said, it was a late night for Patriots fans, for Boston, New England area sports fans. Patriots lose on a field goal in overtime. And there's a big controversy going around about
unbelievable
about the rules about pushing your own teammates into the line to get a boost and stuff. And some controversy broke out. Basically what happened was some of the local guys, I believe Tom E. Curran, who's a local writer, one of the local regional Patriots guys, basically he went and looked up the rule on NFL.com because the rule book is on the website. You can look up any of the NFL rules at any time if you want to read it. He went and looked up the rule, and in the version and he took a screen grab of it and put it out on Twitter so everyone could see it because everyone was,
I did
screaming
see that
about
shot
that.
Late last
So
night.
he put that out there, and at the time, it had said, the rule basically said that what the Patriots were doing was a penalty. I get this all mixed up. It was not supposed to be a penalty.
This was not something that was called in years past.
Yeah, it's not something, but it's been in the rules at times at various points throughout the history of the league. And they've taken it in and out. So basically, hours later, when everyone went to look up the rule again, when people were talking about it, it had changed from what Tom E. Curran had posted. So the NFL went on their website and changed the rules as listed on their website. Now, they claim that what was really wrong is that they had changed the rule at the beginning of the year, and the website wasn't current. So they changed it, and this rule kind of exposed the issue, like, oh, someone in the league noticed, like, hey, we got to fix that. So the fans don't accuse us of rigging the rules. And the league is basically saying, well, at the end of the day, what we post on the website is just there as information. It's not what the teams are really truly bound to abide by. They get an official rule book from the league at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
On paper. And that's what really matters. Well, none of us have access to that unless we, Bill Belichick does,
The special teams coach does, and this is the Patriots talking about. This isn't the Oakland Raiders. This is one of the most disciplined teams literally in the history and the recent history of the league. And this is something that Belichick and the special teams coach must have gone over with the team, because this is serious shit.
Yeah.
Like, for lack of a better term, you're going to have to know that, and the players are going to have to know that, because Belichick is going to kill you with the great sword, like the beheadings in Game of Thrones, like he did to Stephen Ridley earlier in the year, if shit like this goes down. It's like, this isn't the Raiders. So I think it's BS, man, like, someone needed the Jets to win that game. Like, that'll never come out, but like the refs had the money line, one or the other.
Well, and even today, I mean, Belichick came out in the press conference today and made an admission that we don't normally hear. We haven't been hearing from the Patriots lately. He basically put it on himself. He said, that's a coaching issue. It's up to me to make sure that they're aware of what the proper rules are and what they can and cannot do. And like, he didn't make any excuses for it. He didn't say, well, this is garbage because they never called it. There are a lot of rules that they don't really ever call. There's all kinds of holding and things that happen on every play. And many of those things aren't consequential to the play in the end. And, and it would ruin the product to call every little thing. It would be constant, flag every play.
Yeah.
But maybe they need to clean up the rule book a little bit to reflect the reality of what's actually being played on the field.
Exactly. And if they want to call this, that's fine. Like, I have no problems with that, but I just want consistency. That's what gets me so fired up. And you'll see people on Twitter, like, I'm not the only one. Everyone has to call me crazy, but there's other people that are throwing out that word too, conspiracy play, call, all this stuff. And like, so it's like, I'm not the only one. It's trending right now. I mean, and yes, it's probably not. Probably something that you should have as a rule, which is fine. But there's been over 400 snaps for special teams, field goals, and extra points this year. And we haven't seen this penalty once. Why would they wait this long to start calling it? Wouldn't this be something they wanted to enforce right away?
Yeah, if it was that big a deal. And I mean, from what I can tell, I think it's mostly I think it's more a player safety thing, just because of the contact that happens in the middle of the special teams formations for a kick.
That's understandable. But I mean, then when you look at like how much Las Vegas profited on that play, I mean, it's enormous because there was no Jets money line bets. There were very little.
One-sided.
There was almost an 80-20 split on that game. It was all Patriots money.
Yeah, no one was going in on the Jets line
exactly.
This week,
so that was a big swing, and then throwing a Jets win, and because then if there's a Patriots money line bets, even if the Patriots win by 2 points, not cover the spread, you can still get hammered, but like cleaning up with the underdog and the underdog just winning outright, like that's a huge swing in money, and this is potentially like in billions of dollars, like they say.
Yeah, that game was a windfall for Vegas. I mean, he's kept all those bets on New England.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it's only in the millions in Las Vegas,
still a
but
chunk
like
of
worldwide,
money,
it comes out to be like about
it's a big deal.
It's insane how much money is bet.
It's a big deal.
So it's like just to see like that, and not a lot of people will talk about this. Like, you're not going to hear them. They're not going to say what I just said to you on ESPN. No. But I mean, those numbers, you can go look those numbers up yourself. Like, about the consensus, that's what they're there. Like, it's not that hard to find that stuff.
You know? That information is
like, we won't ever know exactly how much money because that's up to the bookies to release. But we can assume by knowing how much tickets were punched on each game, that information is available. So it's like you think about that kind of stuff, and then you see this stuff being called, and you're like, what is going on down there? Like, why did it have to happen here?
Yeah, it looks really bad. And I mean, the Patriots overall, they're banged up, and I may have been wrong a bit. I really thought the defense would be okay, and we saw them give up
a few big plays.
So and some big plays. But I think what I thought may be true also proved true is that the Jets were able to run the ball a bit against New England, and that forced them to that changes how you defend. When they can actually run the ball as opposed to when they can't. And without Vince Wilfork there, it makes it hard. Mm-hmm. You have to pull other guys up to account for the run, and then they're not back to cover passes and stuff. So it just made for some tricky matchups. And that's going to be the big question mark with the Patriots going forward, is just the attrition of it. Like, can they get through these injuries? Their defense has to play at the level they've been playing at for most of the year, up until last week, until the Vince Wilfork injury. They have to be there, because clearly the Patriots have shown that they can't close out a game purely with their offense.
Yeah.
They're not offensively superior to the other teams in the league that they can just, you saw what happened with New Orleans.
Yeah.
You can't just go and ground and pound at the end of the game and run 3 minutes off the clock when you have a 3-point lead or whatever. It's just, that doesn't happen in the NFL anymore. It's impossible, because it's just too easy for other teams to stop the run. So without those tools, now Gronk came back in this game. He played. He had, he had a somewhat pedestrian return, but, was not completely useless. So will he be able to continue to be healthy and play and get better as the season progresses? That's going to be a big question mark for the Patriots too. Big key to their success.
They're definitely a different team right now, and Brady, I'm not saying that he's lost it or anything, but he's not doing what he was doing last year. He's way under. And this is through 7 games, mind you. His career completion percentage is 63.4%. He's running at 55.4 right now. I mean, yardage-wise, he's not completely off pace, but he's not even quite on pace for 4,000 right now. Granted, like I said, it's still only 7 games. 8 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. So he's not. And this is a direct translation of the receivers, Wes Welker for one, and not having guys to throw to. I mean, Aaron Hernandez and the healthy Gronkowski.
They are sorely lacking targets, I think, and
Gronk was huge this week.
Yeah.
We all saw that.
I understated his performance a little bit. I kind of forgot the numbers, but he did have 114 yards, no touchdowns, so he didn't really get a shot in the red zone. And
he almost had that great one-armed catch, he just didn't, leaping over the post.
So, I mean, he's there, so if he can keep that up, and I'm sure the touchdowns he'll start to score some touchdowns too. But they're still a team that's lacking in targets. Hopefully Danny Amendola can be on the field every week. He'll be able to be healthy going, through the rest of the season. But I think part of it is that it plays in the back of Tom Brady's mind. And I mean, he's a great competitor. Clearly he has the focus to be, he's won 3 Super Bowls. He has the mental ability to go out there and tune most of that out. But it doesn't matter at some point, no matter how good you are. I don't care if you're Joe Montana. You don't have your guys, especially those guys that you can put the ball up to and they're going to get it. That's going to play on you. And I think that's part of what you see in some of his body language and some of that frustration that you see him venting out on the sidelines a bit. It's not even necessarily the players that he has. It's just he doesn't have the guys that he's confident in. Here's a guy who's if you follow the narrative and if you believe you go along with everything they say, here's a guy, Tom Brady, who, has taken a number of team-friendly deals over the years and taken supposed reductions. And what they really do is they just backload his contract with more performance incentives. It's not a true pay cut necessarily. But he's taken less guaranteed money over the years, for the team, and they haven't, some of their moves clearly have been suspect. I think you can definitely question, them allowing Wes Welker to get away. Maybe they should have been a little nicer to him. And, cause I think he was the better option this year. If you look at the performance he's having in Denver, and he's definitely more durable. He's proven more durability over the years, in his career than Danny Amendola has to this point.
I think they also knew Edelman would be taking over a lot of that too.
Yeah, Edelman can play, but then he's a slot receiver, but he's not.
Well, never mind.
He's not Welker. There's a big difference.
There is a big difference, but I think think about that 3, Gronk, Edelman, Amendola isn't a bad combo to have. And I think that's what they were thinking last year. That they were, Welker's gone. Well, now Edelman can be our shifty guy and we can line him in the slot. We can line him up wide. And yeah, he's not Welker. I don't think he's nearly as great as Welker, but he's damn great in open space. And he does their punt returns and kickoff returns now too.
Their return guy. And I mean, I like Julian Edelman, but, they couldn't possibly have foreseen the Aaron Hernandez, arrest and all
exactly, that. Exactly, that too, yeah.
But it goes back to the idea, you can only take so many chances on so many guys. I mean, this week we're talking, another NFL headline is Brandon Merriweather's at it again, messing people up, and people are talking like he should get thrown out of the league at this point. Here's a guy that they knew about, the whole stomping incident in Florida and all that before they drafted him. They were able to get him because of that. They took a chance. He showed some promise at some point with the Patriots, but didn't really ever pan out. And that's a lot of these guys. So they may have to rethink what they're doing to acquire, new talent and players.
Yeah.
At some point, or, it's a shame. It's just such a shame in New England because of the whole Tom Brady window, the idea that, he should be able to win another Super Bowl if you have the right team, if you have if you can get the right pieces in place and get a good team in place. If he has the things he needs, he should be able to get one more ring before his career really starts to, drop off.
Yeah.
And,
it's a matter of time. There's a shelf
just
life.
the slightest beginnings of that in the last maybe couple of years, especially in the postseason where they get down to the end of the year. People talk about how Brady's postseason numbers have not been as good in recent years as they have been in the past. It's just, we're starting to get to the end of that window. We're getting close. So I as a Pats fan, I hope they can figure it out. But this year, I don't know what's going to happen. I think they're still a really good team. They're going to win. They're going to get to the playoffs, but I don't know that they have the enough talent and the depth of talent they need on both sides of the ball to go all the way and win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I don't see it this year. Hi, folks. Did you know that Argo brand cornstarch has been the chef's choice in cornstarch for over 75 years? And you know what else? Our own Frenchy the Greek is a 5-star chef with over a decade of experience. So tell us, Frenchy, why is Argo the chef's choice in cornstarch?
I apply Argo liberally throughout the day to reduce chafing and prevent irritation. Nothing keeps me as comfortable all day long.
So there you have it. Argo, the chef's choice for over 75 years.
Argo cornstarch. It promotes dryness.
I had warned LJ and others to watch out for St. Louis. They're always that team that, at least in my mind, like, we don't really think a lot about them, even as we get down to playoff time. And then they get through the first series or so, and
yeah.
And then they go out and rock the Dodgers, and like, oh yeah,
underdogs.
they're a great team, yeah, they were a great team. They are a great team. They have been all year. We just haven't been talking about it. They're just undervalued. I think it would be a lot more fun to have the Dodgers and Red Sox playing in this World Series.
Yeah.
Just for the storyline of it. We have all these former Red Sox players in LA now, so, there's all that. But I think at the end of the day, some of those guys turned out and performed, kind of the way they did when they played with the Red Sox. So maybe.
I like the Cardinals in the series. I think I'm going to pick them. I like the young pitching, and that tends to do well, especially AL. The Cardinals have the advantage in starting pitching because it's AL to NL, and that no one has seen Waka pitch, no one has seen Kelly pitch, they've barely seen Wainwright pitch, and that's a huge advantage. And not to say the same thing about the batters. For St. Louis, they also haven't seen Lester and Buchholz as much, but when you have these young guys, at least there's some film on Lester and Buchholz.
Yeah.
There's nothing. There's not much for Waka.
Waka and these guys are just, you have no idea what's going to happen with them.
And they're poised. These guys they're locked in. And it's the greatest thing St. Louis did is waiting to start these guys because they know they have them to start the year, but use them in limited roles and didn't really get him going into the full swing of things until, closer to June, July. And then look at them now, and it's really brilliant. And they're a great run franchise, St. Louis. They really are. They're the new Yankees. There should be more hatred for this team on a national level because it would take some of the heat off me being a Yankee fan. Because everyone hates the Yankees, Well, they're always good. Well, now it's the Cardinals are always good. Hello.
Well, and that's what LJ and I were saying, that we're kind of, they deserve to be there, that the Cards certainly do, but we're kind of getting tired of seeing the Cardinals all the time coming up in the World Series. It's getting a little old, I think. We definitely won in Dodgers, so.
I like the series price on this. We can talk gambling for a minute.
Yeah.
Was about $1.35 for the Cardinals in the plus. So plus 135. You put 100 down, you get 135. And then the Sox, I believe you had to lay about $1.20, so minus 120 or 1 1/4. So you have to put up 125 to win 100. And I feel there's value on St. Louis there, and I did pop a little something on it, just because I can't pass up that value right now with these starting pitchers. Exactly what I just said earlier, and the fact that they still have a good offense. It's not even coming down to offense anymore, though. The Sox have the best offense in the league, and then they only had 2 hits to get them through. 2 huge hits that were grand slams, But take away one of those hits, and it's a completely different series.
Yeah.
Take away two of those hits, and they might not even be here right now. So it's just pitching is dominating right now.
Well,
we're seeing that.
I think it also, with the Sox, especially in this series, I think, we saw a bunch of games where, and not to take anything away from the Tigers and their pitching, because Verlander and some of those guys had some really good performances. Part of that was just the statistical deviation of the Red Sox and their offense. I mean, they've been so clutch and they just come through in so many spots this year. At some point, the bats are going to go cold for some period of time, and I think that's a lot of what attributed to their losses in this series when they, the games they did lose.
I mean, the Cardinals put up 10 hits against Kershaw, got 7 runs on him, got him to walk a couple guys, and that's going to be a huge motivator going into the Red Sox series. They know that they got to essentially the Cy Young. You'd assume he's going to get the Cy Young for the NL. And they know that they're going up against people that aren't of the same caliber of Kershaw. So for that team, that is just going to be some huge motivation there. And that was the one gem. We've been talking about how great all these great starting pitchers have been doing, Scherzer, Verlander, and even Doug Fister and these guys in the playoffs and Waka, and then Kershaw goes out and just gets absolutely hammered in the most important game of the year. I don't think it's going to change anything for Cy Young, but just goes to show, pitchers can still give it up. I mean, I still think pitching is going to be the dominant force in baseball in the coming years, but you can still get shelled. You can, people can still get to you.
Well, I would ask you, French, because you're not necessarily a Red Sox fan, so I'd like to get your opinion. There's been a lot of debate about the Iglesias PV trade was made about that. Given what happened, given PV's performance in the series and what Julio Iglesias was able to do, where do you do you think that, does that invalidate the trade? Does that make it a bad trade based on what we saw in this series?
Well, at first, yeah, because when PV got hammered by Detroit in his start and had given up 5 runs or whatever, I mean, part of that was Pedroia's fault. That would have changed the complexity of the game. Had he turned a double play or at least gotten one out there, but they didn't get any outs, and the Tigers took advantage of that and were able to get 5 runs off of PV. So at first, then, I was like, oh man, that turned out to be a bad trade. And then you see these defensive plays like Iglesias makes, the one where he runs out into shallow left and then scoops the ball up.
Yeah.
And another diving stop up the middle. And then look what happens. He ended up, he didn't cost them the game, but he didn't help their effort. So it was a good trade.
Yeah. I think Iglesias' performance does not necessarily weight the trade. I don't think that you can look at that and say,
we shouldn't
totally
be weighing
it. Or
I think it's a little funny that happened, that PV gets hit, and then half of Boston's like, why did we trade for this guy? And then Iglesias makes the error on Saturday night, and then everyone goes nuts because they're like, we traded him away. That was like, we did that,
Well,
you can't look at it like that.
One criticism of Iglesias, and it's not often said, but people who have, who sort of dissected it, one of the things I've heard come out of some scouts and stuff is that, he makes these brilliant defensive plays. He's diving all over the place, but some of those plays, there's a good percentage of those plays where he doesn't have to dive, where he doesn't have to make that backhanded catch, where, maybe he plays it up a bit, because there's this idea that he's this incredible defensive player. And I think, maybe he plays up to that. And when you do that, you run that risk of getting an error on a routine play when you could have just blocked the ball, put your body in front of it, fundamental baseball, and stopped it. You wanted to be flashy. He's a great defensive shortstop, but I think you get a little bit of flash with him. And occasionally that can be a weakness for him defensively, like we saw on Saturday. So
I still think long term Detroit got the better end.
Oh, they got a lot more upside over the long term, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, PV's not, what is it? 1 year, and then is it an option or anything, or they can re-sign him?
Oh, I forget off the top.
Rental?
They have a line on him, but no baseball analyst, no Red Sox fan could conceive that they would go into this series and have John Lackey come out and pitch like probably one of his best performances in many years.
Yeah.
Then have Peavy, who'd been looking so good and really battled in his last outing in the postseason, come out and look as bad as he did.
I think Peavy will rebound.
I think he will.
He was really focused. He looked focused. It was the biggest start of his life.
Yeah.
I mean, he hadn't gone deep into the playoffs.
I just don't think that I think he's very competitive. He's a very good pitcher, but I don't think he's that true number one. I just don't think he's that guy that the postseason rolls around and you're like, here you go, buddy. You're going to go out, first start of the season. The postseason, or like, we need this one, buddy. Go on out there, I think he tries to rise to that occasion and he gets very close. He has that competitiveness in him, but he's just a hair shy. I don't know if I can't pinpoint whether it's talent or focus or exactly what it is, but he just misses the mark of being that true ace pitcher.
Yeah.
Now the real MVPs for the Red Sox really have been the bullpen, who at some point we thought would fall apart, that we'd see it where they get into a one run game in the postseason. And they sent out,
Breslow came really close in a few of those games,
but they've held it together.
And they yank them right after a walk.
It's been impressive. I've been amazed. That's about as surprising as John Lackey's performance was this past week.
And Koji said through a translator that he's never felt like how he does now, was dealing with like the rushes, and you can see it. Yeah. You watch like the deep breaths he's taking.
Oh yeah,
every 5 seconds he's and he wasn't doing that in the regular seasons, but he's able to pitch. He's pitching through it, and he's looking good. And even Yunechi Tazawa, and these guys are great right now.
Yeah, Tazawa's been good for him. I think that sort of body language that we've seen from Uehara is a lot of why we in Boston think that he's going to have this big breakdown at some point, because you watch him pitch and you think, oh, look at him, dude. He just looks like he's crushed by this pressure at any time.
Yeah.
That he could I'm not pitching. He's getting it done.
Stuff.
He has the competitive fire, I think, to go out there and win. So I've come around on the Red Sox a lot this year. Obviously, we've talked about that.
Yeah, you had given up a while back. Well, you got one more series to go.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I think it's going to be. I'll pick the Red Sox in 7 in this series. I think it's going to be a drawn out.
I like a drawn out series too.
Blood and guts series. It's going to come down to the last game, and that could be a long game. It could be a 12-inning. Game 7, who knows? This could be one for the ages. So I'm excited, and we'll definitely be watching. Another thing that hopefully everyone will be watching for, LJ could not make it for the regular show this week, but he is joining us later in the week. Wednesday, we'll be recording the Free Agents podcast, NBA preview. We'll be going around the league and giving you all of our impressions on all the teams this year. Our very own Stephen A. Smith will rejoin us for that. And hopefully he'll be joining us more regularly for some NBA segments, through the fall until we get past college basketball in the spring. And then we'll be focusing more on the NBA playoffs then, but we're really excited about this, and, we will be doing a full fantasy, we'll give, as we do the preview of the league this year, we'll certainly be giving you all the great, fantasy pickups for fantasy basketball this year. All those, bench guys that you want to grab. Because we can't all have LeBron, right?
We can't all have LeBron.
We can't all have LeBron James.
Just clone him. They just clone him a bunch of times, and everyone can have a LeBron James.
Well, they may have to. The NFL might have to start cloning players, because I don't know that they're going to have anyone left to play anymore at the rate of... It's gotten so bad. We talked about the concussion thing, and... it really calls into question over the long term, like, can the NFL keep this product on the field, keep a great product with top talent out there? People are getting so beat up. They can't even really come back. It's not, they can't just come back and play the next week. So, what's going to happen? There's a lot of questions for the sport of football, I think.
I would not be surprised if 10 years from now it was a different league with high-flying games.
Yeah, I think it might be
like
more
that game we had at Denver and Dallas
a
few weeks ago.
Yeah,
where no one's really hitting you. That's going to be the future of the NFL. It could be with this concussion stuff.
Yeah, it could really turn into more like arena football. Although arena football has its concussions too because of the wall, because it really is like they put the walls right on. There's no space on the out of bounds. on the sidelines. I don't know if you ever really watched any arena games. They basically have boards like hockey. So receivers and stuff on the sideline, close to the sideline, they can get checked into those boards and stuff. But we might see a game more like that, more passing, and I don't know that we'll have the, we'll have some out of bounds space on the sides. I don't think we'll have the hockey style checking. But have you caught any hockey, French? I know, kind of hockey always sort of starts quietly on us, and we don't really get to covering it till
a little bit. Doing a fantasy team.
Oh, you got a fantasy team this year.
Yeah.
Tell us about that, French. Who's on your fantasy hockey team?
I had the number 2 overall pick, and someone wanted Crosby, so I went off and got Ovechkin, and he's been the number 1 player thus far in our league by our
it's a long
settings.
season, so.
Yeah, we were doing it roto style, so it's it's the long haul. Low excitement with no half split, so it's just the whole way.
Oh yeah, so it's just it is the long haul.
Yeah, and if you're out of it by December, you're
probably out of it.
Yeah, you're not gonna want to keep looking at it. And it's deep. It's 15-team league. It's great.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm guessing there's not a large sum of money in this league. It sounds like too big.
No, the $20 holla.
Yeah, that's reasonable for that.
Yeah, it's kind of, I'm looking at it like a slot machine, but I had fun. I did the draft. I didn't really know all the guys, but I got James Neal, who's coming off injury soon, and he's still pretty damn good. He'll be good for the Stars. I got the Lucic.
Yep.
Great for hits.
Yep.
Great for penalty minutes.
Good for plus minus.
Good plus minus guy, definitely. Takes shots, he's a great all around guy. Love having him on the squad.
He's a top plus. That's a top plus in my, you want to grab that guy because for your plus and minus right there. So that's cool. I've almost, part of why I haven't watched as much football as I normally do on Sundays, my fantasy team is just so abysmal. I can't. It's depressing. It's harder for me to get involved, engaged in some of these other games that are outside of the area, outside of our home market. I think I'm going to just start doing the weekly drafts, the salary cap drafts where you just pick a new team every week.
Oh,
you start getting into more.
I cashed on FanDuel. That's right.
Oh, did you? Have you been doing it? I didn't. Yeah.
It was 25. I had 25 sitting in there for 6 weeks. Never even thought about making a team. I just kind of forgot about it.
A little bit of money in there. You're gonna play with it.
And then I made a team, and it was a $25 buy-in. There was 2,860 entries, and then you had to get in the top. I think like 300. I got 52. I think. They paid $200.
Oh, nice.
First was 5 figures, so it was up there. This is a good pool for $25.
That is a nice pool. That's probably better than your Sunday online poker tournament.
Yeah, and it has the same feel of online poker when you look at it. But they give you like the salary cap. Do you understand how it works?
Yeah, basically like every week everyone has all the people have a set salary cap. And each player has a set value, and you just pick what guys you want. And it's all about maximizing the value.
It's about finding the value.
Yeah, a big part of it is breaking down all the matchups, because obviously a lot of people are going to pick the perennial weekly top performers, your Reggie Bushes, your Tom Brady's, or whoever, who your top guys are always going to go. And a lot of the way you win is finding that one or two guys that no one else picked.
Alshon Jeffrey last
exactly.
week. It was Harry Douglas this week. And I looked at the top 10 people, and still only a couple guys had them. But by having them, that put them up to, to that top 10 mark. But I had Peyton was like the most expensive player, like almost 10,000 out of your 65,000 budget. And McCoy were my two big ones. And McCoy didn't end up doing much at all for me, which I thought I was in trouble. I had Woodhead with the value because he was super cheap, did enough, got a touchdown. And then Dez Bryant, Jason Witten, Eric Decker was relatively cheap. And Decker was absolutely huge for me. The Peyton-Decker combo gave me enough points. And an Indy kicker, which was great. He had put up like 14, I think, for fantasy leagues. And Carolina defense, which was super cheap as well. But I was just going by the matchup. They were playing St. Louis, it's like I wasn't going to go after the Seahawks there by any means. At this point in this kind of league, there's no sense to to just save all that kind of salary cap money and this kind of thing for the number one defense, you know. So I'm definitely intrigued to play it again, but part of me just wants to pull it out and call it a day.
Yeah, well,
call it a season. Like,
profits,
I'm almost
dude.
content. Like that, yeah. Like
I would take your profits and keep like $50 in there. I mean,
maybe, yeah, I should fire another one out.
They have even small. I mean, they have like $5 and $10 ones that are huge.
Yeah, they have.
Right?
Yeah,
so, I mean, you can just mess around on there.
The value, yeah, like I said, the value. Look for the ones with the guaranteed. They're like poker tournaments. You know, it's like 25K guaranteed.
Yeah.
It's like. But
there's a lot of money.
And they have the 50-50s too, but I couldn't find a big enough one for 25 where if they get 1,000 people, 500 win, 500 lose. But you only win your money, and then you it's like a little less than 50%.
Yeah.
You got to pay this website
it's just like
50 cents or a dollar.
Like a 50-50
so
poker
if you put
tourney
up to 25, you'll win even money. So I'm thinking about maybe I'll just try to do that, quick little blackjack hand double up type of thing, you know.
Away there.
Wow.
Well, we're going to get more into the weekly salary cap drafts. For football and daily ones for basketball and the other sports.
Definitely interesting
because it is it's still growing, but that is the greatest trend in fantasy right now.
I can't believe it's legal. It's legal action. It's literally legal action.
Yeah. Well, that's how much influence major sports has. In our government, in our lawmaking process. I mean, they passed the ban to ban internet poker and other, the Unlawful Internet Gambling Enforcement Act. When they passed that many years ago, there's a specific exemption in there for fantasy sports and horse racing, because horse racing has legal, internet wagering. You can bet on horse racing in America legally over the internet, and they'll take your credit card and everything. And that's basically where fantasy sports is at. So.
Oh, if that one's okay, why not the sports?
Yeah. Well, we're getting there. But I think that's going to do it. Do you got anything else, French, that's really any burning hot takes or questions about sports or anything else?
Minnesota Giants tonight, I'm interested. I got a good hedge going. So I recommended this play in the Frenchy file, and I'm not super high on it, but it's a play that I made. So I have an interesting hedge. I took Minnesota in the bar pool, and I don't know what the money of it is. I'll have to go tonight to see what the bartender has to say.
Yeah.
But I'm eligible with the Minnesota win. I'll win. I had Indy to cover. Panthers to cover and the Packers to cover on that card. And then this is my last game. So either way, I'll win something tonight. So I'm a winner. It's good knowing that going into the game, but I still want to watch it. I still think the Giants will hold on. I just feel like they're due. I mean, I've been saying it for 6 losses in a row through them, but they really are. I think when it comes down to those yards per game numbers that I put up in the blog, it's you throw in the fact that Josh Freeman's playing when he barely knows anything with the offense. He's
been there 10 days or something, like a week and a half or something like that. He's been with the Vikings. So
I mean, they're gonna hand the rock off to AP the whole game, I think. And that's going to affect the game. So it's going to come down to what he does and if they can slow him down or not. But I still feel like he can still throw. He's still got guys that can catch the ball.
Well, and the Giants home crowd can be a big advantage, especially against someone.
And it's Monday night.
Yeah, and against Freeman, who's new to that offense, where communication is so critical for him to execute.
This is also what I wrote about. Now Freeman's, I don't want to say he has an ego because I don't know him enough to say that.
Yeah.
But on Monday night, guys tend to they stretch for things a little bit more. They try to do things that they wouldn't normally do that tend to be, could be in a flashy manner or wanting to excel on a primetime audience. And he's coming off just being cut off the Bucs, and he wants to make a good impression. Good impression here, and this is a great spot to do it. Now, one could argue that could be motivation, and one could argue that to be pressure.
He might overreach. He might try to do too much.
Exactly.
And not look good.
And I don't think the Giants, at this point, if they had any chance to try to make the playoffs, they were supposed to win 2 weeks ago. So at this point, I'm not saying they're cashing in as a lost season, but I think they want to gain respect. And 3.5 isn't a bad line. They've been essentially saying this game's they're evenly matched. I mean, with the home field advantage, and then they're throwing a half point. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing go under either. If they're going to be churning the rock to AP, that might help tick the clock away. But 48 is the total on that game. But yeah. Betting unders in this league is a tough thing to do.
That is tough, betting any under.
Well, the overs, there was 9 overs this week, and there was 8 underdogs. 8 favorites that won this week. So it's always interesting in the betting spectrum. And yes, I guess I'll do some follow up on the lines and stuff. Later in the week,
we will definitely have. We were going to keep Frenchy's files going.
It's
on a
good.
weekly basis. I've been really enjoying. I do all sort of the editing bits for it once I get all the writing. So I've been really enjoying it. You've had some really interesting and just really good insights into what's really going on with these spreads and stuff every week.
Well, so that's the stuff I want to know. Yeah. Where the public money is, how many bets are on each side. Where the sharps are.
Yeah,
that's always good stuff to know. Like, and why, like it's always good to have reasons, there's suggestions. They're not all plays. Like, I think I threw the Jaguars out there last week. I think we were on the right idea, but the line should have gone up to like 9 or 10 and then it would have been better value. So it's like, I couldn't take it. I did not take the Jaguars. I wrote it down in there, and I wrote a little thing. But like when it comes down to it, so I feel like I'm a little more interested in them this week actually. We can talk about this later in the week.
Yeah, we'll definitely.
They're getting 17 in England on the national stage.
Yeah.
Or international stage rather. But it's San Francisco, Jacksonville, and London. This Sunday.
Yeah, we talked about this at the beginning of the season too, when we were kind of going through all the schedules and stuff, because we just thought it's going to be a really interesting game.
They're sending them.
Yeah, it's a lot of points.
They're sending the worst team across the pond. Like, here you go.
Yeah.
Watch this shit.
Yeah. Well, that's usually what happens. Some bad team ends up playing in London at some point. I mean, Pats played Tampa Bay.
Was pretty bad.
Yeah. So at least they didn't give everyone in England MRSA. Oh, come on, Bucks.
Zombie flu.
Come on, guys. Greg Schiano, get those facilities cleaned up. Seriously, if you have to just burn everything and rebuild it, do it, because we don't need it. Players are getting hurt as it is. They don't need to be getting awful infections. But
firebomb.
Yeah, that's a great note. I think we'll leave it off there. So thanks everyone for listening, and we will, like I said, we'll keep an eye on our Facebook, on our website, freeagentspodcast.com. We will have the NBA preview for you this week. Probably be out Thursday. We're going to record Wednesday and have it on iTunes for you on Thursday morning. And we'll keep bringing you Frenchy's files as well, so keep reading, and we'll try to get those up a little bit earlier, not an hour before 1 o'clock action on Sunday. We're going to try to get those out for you like Saturday evening or something, so you can spend some time with it and make some good choices and get some good insight into your picks for the week. So, but thanks everybody for listening, and we'll be back next week.